Hello everyone, good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. Today is the 18th of September. The topic for today is the imminent possibility of World War III. The British Army has issued a warning to its citizens to prepare for a large-scale war with Russia. Recently, the UK and the US have been providing long-range weapons to the Kyiv regime at a very high level, and they have launched attacks on Russian facilities. This has been widely covered in the news, so I feel there's no need for me to go into much detail. First, I'd like to start with a comment from Putin. There is an attempt to understand the concept. We are not discussing whether the Kyiv regime is allowed or forbidden to attack Russian territory. They are already carrying out attacks using drones and other means. But when it comes to the use of such weapons, it's still up in the air. This has been confirmed by experts in our country as well. The Ukrainian military does not have the capability to attack using modern Western long-range action systems. This is only possible when they use information that Ukraine itself does not possess but can obtain from satellites. Such data can only come from satellites belonging to the EU, the US, or in other words, NATO satellites. That is the first point. The second very important point is that only military personnel from NATO countries can program the flight paths of these missile systems. Ukrainian soldiers cannot do it. Therefore, the meaning of the Kyiv regime attacking Russia with these weapons is not about Ukraine attacking Russia with its own weapons but rather whether NATO decides to directly participate in the conflict. If that decision is made, it will mean that the US and Europe are directly involved in the war in Ukraine. This will change the nature of the conflict. It will mean that the US is fighting against Russia, and if that happens, appropriate decisions will be made regarding the war. Now, let's talk about Britain's stance. General Sanders has compared the current situation in Ukraine to the crises of 1914 and 1937, warning British citizens to prepare for a war on the scale of the great conflicts of the 20th century. He believes that the military needs to be mobilized. At an international armored vehicle event held in London, Sanders stated that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is only the beginning, and the signs are already there. He warned that before it's too late, we need to remember the lessons of past wars. However, the British Army only has 40 tanks that can be deployed at the moment. What do you think is right in this situation? On the 4th of May of this year, during a rehearsal for the Victory Day military parade, female naval soldiers were marching. Then, in September, a tweet reported that conscription has been revived across Europe. Is that a good thing? That's a question I'd like to ask you. Sanders' remarks serve as a particularly ominous warning to other major European nations. Germany's Ministry of Defense has taken radical steps to prepare for war, making a dramatic shift after 80 years of multilateralism. Recently, Berlin has drafted emergency plans to gather troops on the western border near Belarus. Following General Sanders' remarks, the British government has stated that it has no plans to introduce full conscription, emphasizing that the British military will continue to operate on a voluntary basis. Yesterday, I had an online conversation with a German friend, and he said that Germany is no longer capable of economic growth and can no longer speak out on the international stage. He also mentioned that, while the public doesn't talk about war openly, behind closed doors, it's all they talk about. He seemed very serious. Similarly, anxiety is rising in the UK. Germany emphasizes the need for significant reorganization of its military, and plans have been drawn up to station a force of 300,000 troops in Eastern Europe by early 2025. This is no small matter. World War III could start next year. I've spoken online with people from Germany, the UK, and France, and they all said that Europe is done. The EU is dead, and they have no choice but to follow America's lead.